Hello, my beautiful bookish people. Welcome back to the Autumn Essentials Readathon. In this video, I'll be bringing you my spoiler-free review of Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, the stories of Edgar Allan Poe, the manga classics adaptation. I'll be giving you an update on my bingo board for the Readathon, and I'll also be sharing with you a couple of recipes that are very much pumpkin spice related. So stick around. We got a lot to cover. As always, I will be checking my handy dandy notes because my memory just isn't what it used to be anymore, and I kind of have some medical updates on that. We have found out that my brain is not wired properly, and part of where it isn't wired properly is also involved in memory function. So you'll have to excuse me while I read. But hey, that's what we're here for, right? Reading. I do a lot of that. Anyways, let's get into Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Content warnings for addiction, death, domestic abuse, gore, murder, rape, bullying, assault, disappearance, overdose, victim blaming. There might be more. I'm not exactly the best at coming up with content warnings, but those were the ones that really stuck out to me. Let's see what the book blurb has to say, and see if the book blurb matches my expectations for what I had going into the book. Galaxy Alex Stern is the most unlikely member of Yale's freshman class. Raised in Los Angeles hinterlands by a hippie mom, Alex dropped out of school early and into a world of shady drug dealer boyfriends, dead-end jobs, and much, much worse. By age 20, in fact, she is the sole survivor of a horrific, unsolvable multiple homicide. Some might say she's thrown her life away, but at her hospital bed, Alex is offered a second chance to attend one of the world's most elite universities on a full ride. What's the catch? And why her? Still searching for answers to this herself, Alex arrives in New Haven tasked by her mysterious benefactors with monitoring the activities of Yale's secret societies. These 8 windowless tombs are well known to be haunts of the future rich and powerful, from high-ranking politicos to Wall Street and Hollywood's biggest players. But their occult activities are revealed to be more sinister and more extraordinary than any paranoid imagining might conceive. And yes, that pretty much sets the tone for what you're about to get into with this book. So if that at all sounds interesting, I would say go ahead and check it out. What I will add is that there are several other pop culture and just, I don't know whether to call them historical or artistic references in this text. However, I don't think it's necessary for you to know exactly what those references are to. You can definitely get the story without needing to know those pop culture type references, though it is a fun little nod if you do get those references. I already covered the content warnings for this. I might be missing more. If anyone thinks of any more of them, feel free to leave that in the comments down below. I do think that this book is a lot. Like, this isn't a fun, easy read. It covers a lot. But I think it did a really good job of using the hard topics for a very poignant point, and that these topics were given the time and space that they really needed. I felt like they were really used for a purpose, and that purpose was very well intentioned. Also, this book is just kind of a mood, like capital M-O-O-D, mood. At least for me, reading the physical version, it kind of was. I think this qualifies as dark academia. I think this book also qualifies as dark academia. I haven't really read anything in that genre before that I know of. So, I don't know, maybe. If I had to describe how I felt reading it, let me take you on an imagination journey. Imagine going swimming in the ocean right as the tides are getting ready to change. You're out far enough in the beginning that the waves carry you gently up and down, back and forth, but you're floating there, basically going in circles. Eventually, you see a pattern to the forming waves and you decide to write a big one in. By the time you get to the shore, you've been tossed around and banged up a bit in the shallows because it was a pretty big wave. And at last, you get to your feet and you're anticipating that next trip out to go do that all over again. That's what reading this book really felt like to me. There's an eddy and a calm before it really pulls you in. And for the first 100 to 190-ish pages, I was interested enough to keep reading, but I wasn't super excited. I probably got more excited before page 190, but page 190 is where there is a specific quote that I can't say without spoilers, but that very much made me very excited to keep reading. And I would say that that was probably where I was officially hooked, and that's the part where you just see that wave and you're like, I'm gonna take that in. Pages 190 through 418 were like taking that ride of that wave all the way in. And pages 419 to 443 were like being tumbled in the shallows because you're getting roughed up, a lot of stuff's happening, and you can kind of tell that this is where this book's gonna leave off. And by pages 445 to 450, those were the ones where you're standing up in anticipation, looking for that next write in, because that's the setup for the next book in this series. This also, very much by the description of the book, has an air of mystery to it. And as far as that mystery side goes, I felt like it was done really well. I would be very surprised if you read this and figure out all the twists and turns before they happen. A lot of stuff is foreshadowed, and it's foreshadowed very well. Some of it I figured out. Some of it I really did not until we got there, and I really enjoy that because, like, part of my bread and butter reading as I grew up was a lot of mysteries. And if you read a lot of mysteries, I feel like it gets harder and harder to be surprised by the mysteries because you already have a pretty good backlog of what's probably going to happen. So, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by how this book turned out. Now for the stories of Edgar Allan Poe, the Manga Classics Edition. If you've ever read Poe and you like his work, you're gonna like this. This is a very true to the original adaptation. It's just fun to see it in a different format. The art on the cover is very reminiscent of what you'll get as you flip through, because I know some people are interested to see if the cover matches the rest of the book, and I think it very much so does. And if you're wondering what stories are included, you have The Telltale Heart, The Cask of Amontillado, The Raven, The Mask of the Red Death, and The Fall of the House of Usher. So if you're looking for that, great. If you've never read Poe, I will say this. He's kind of the king of classical melodrama mixed with horror. Like ye old-fashioned style horror. So if you're into that, you're going to really enjoy this. If you're not into melodrama, maybe not. Although I do think even if you're not hugely into melodrama, you'll probably enjoy The Fall of the House of Usher because it's much longer and much more fleshed out, because a lot of what Poe wrote were very short stories. One thing that I did appreciate as I was reading this book is that at the end of some of the stories, they kind of break down when it was originally published, how much Poe was paid for it, and if there are any other details that would help a modern reader understand it better, then they include that detail as well. Like in The Telltale Heart, a lot of the mood of this book, and especially where it was originally published, or I should say the story rather, is about hearing what you think is a heartbeat. But there's also a bug of the time and area that makes a sound similar to a heartbeat, and shenanigans ensue. So that was kind of neat. I had completely forgotten part of the backstory to these stories and why they were so effective in their time. It was really neat getting those details at the end of the story again. So, there you go. That's my review of the stories of Edgar Allan Poe by Manga Classics. And now for a bingo board update. For Pumpkin Spice, I would say that Lumberjanes Volume 13 would count for this one. I mean, this whole comic series is absolutely adorable, and I completely forgot to put it in my TBR because I had been waitlisted with my library for it for a very long time, and that finally came through, so I had a fun quick read the other day. For Jack-o'-lantern, I'm gonna say that Lumberjanes counts here as well. For a little bit of backstory on this series, it is a mythical reimagining of a Scouts camp with a diverse cast and very much Alphabet Mafia acceptance. And by Alphabet Mafia, I mean LGBTQIA+, and whatever other letters we've thrown in there now. And it's adorable. The relationships and storylines are laid out in a healthy manner, and it's based on an old American scouting society. I would be really surprised if this comic/graphic novel series doesn't stick around for a really long time, because it's cute and it's queer and it's based on the Girl Scouts/Boy Scouts/Scouts in general, and it's just an adorable fun time. Also, for this category, Manga Classics, Edgar Allan Poe. Need I say more? For comfort food, okay, hear me out here. I'm gonna say Ninth House. The story itself is very much not cozy, but the genre is one of my favorite genres that I enjoy getting into, especially around this time of year. So this genre is part of my happy place, and I'm gonna say that it counts for comfort food for me. For folktale/music, I read a couple of stories out of the Botanical Folktales of Britain and Ireland. Does that count? I haven't read the whole book, but I read a couple of stories. For crisp air, no, I haven't been reading outside my wheelhouse yet. I don't know if I will, because I've been having so much problems with concentration and memory, but we'll see when we get there, if we get there. For Stay Warm, I have made several toasty drinks, including the one featured at the end of this video that also comes with a recipe that also counts towards comfort food. I spent a ridiculously long time editing that sequence together, so I'd really appreciate it if you would please stick around for that and tell me if you liked it. For pumpkins, I don't think I've done anything for this yet, but yeah, oops. I don't know if I will find one for this. I carved a jack-o'-lantern with my partner. Does that count? For quick bread, I'm pretty sure I snacked on some pumpkin spice cake while reading Ninth House, but also Lumberjanes Volume 13 is rather short. By the way, if you'd like my recipe for pumpkin spice cake, totally check that out in the doobly-doo down below. I'll have the recipe linked down there. Now, without further ado, here is my recipe for pumpkin spice syrup. Also, check out the description box again for a link to the recipes, because I like providing written versions of that stuff. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. If you've made it here, leave me a pumpkin emoji down in the comments below. Also, if you want to copy and paste it, I'll have it linked in the description, just in case you can't access those emoji keyboards. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!